Welcome to today's webinar about PDF accessibility. I'm Will Whitney from BMI, and with me is Brock Fumler from, well, he works with Netra Labs, who provides accessibility on demand. So it's an application that we offer our clients, and Netra Labs is the developer of the application. So Brock is here as my expert colleague to help out where it makes sense. But welcome, glad you're here.
Yeah,
Quick
thank you,
nuts.
Will. Appreciate it.
And there's Brock. He'll be jumping in and out of this thing as well. So yeah, I'll ask him for some insight and some elaboration on some points. So nuts and bolts. Always like to do a little housekeeping. Using that tool that should be probably on your right. If you could raise your hand if you can hear me. So I know Brock can hear me, but just to make sure other people can. All right. I see people raising their hands. Perfect. You can put them back down. But if you can see my screen, which should say nuts and bolts, please raise your hand again to make sure that you can see my screen. All right, I've gotten a few people raising them. Thank you very much. That means it's working. Excellent. All right. So you are muted. You're not on video. Don't worry about being on screen or anything. But what that means is you cannot ask me a question directly or ask us a question. Basically, use that Q&A tool, that question feature in Zoom if you have a question as it comes up. If I see it, I'll try to answer as we go along, but there is a section at the end for questions, so just put them in there and I should be able to get to them. All right, so the purpose for today is clearly about accessibility. So what are we talking about? Describe, point out a few challenges that you maybe have faced in the past or you are facing now or potentially will face in the future, and then how accessibility on demand, just we call it AOD, how that overcomes these challenges related to PDF documents and accessibility. So, high level, what's the big deal? Well, the DOJ, with ADA Title II, accessibility has always been a thing for the sight impaired, the hard of seeing folks that still need to access documents and be able to function, in society. There's always been accessibility guidelines and rules around providing accessibility for folks that may not be like you and me that can see fine and have no issues reading. But the new rule goes into effect very soon. I'll describe that in a second. Basically saying that all web content must be made accessible against Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, also known as WCAG or WCAG. So all web content must be made accessible for these PDF documents. So what does this mean? All public documents. So if you have like internal financials or sensitive data that is not for public consumptions, those should not apply, but all public documents like a PDF on a government website. So your citizens need to go download a document related to whatever's going on in, the town of Dogpatch. Okay, that PDF needs to be accessible so people that are sight impaired can still access it, read it, get the information. And the deadlines I just mentioned that are approaching are the compliance deadlines based on population. So if you're in a city, town, municipality with 50,000 or more people, this year, April 24th, these rules go into effect. If you're below 50,000, it's next April, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be looking into it, kind of planning ahead of what am I going to do when this deadline approaches, because there could be repercussions, potentially lawsuits or potentially withheld state or federal funding if you're not compliant with the rules. Any additional comments you want on this kind of background, Brock?
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head there. I mean, there are massive repercussions, of course, with non-compliance here, and I think that you had it perfectly listed. Lawsuits are our big number one. There's been already multiple lawsuits totaling millions of dollars from January 1 to today. And because there's multiple levels of ADA, I mean, there's ADA 1, 2, and 3, and ADA Title 3 for private industry businesses, we're seeing this all of the time, especially for private colleges as well. And so these guidelines, these WCAG guidelines are there for a reason. They're there to help people. They're there to genuinely assist in assistive technology. And I think one of Will's points was fantastic, having okay, you have your public facing content out there. Let's get that done. Like, we need to get that done, but it doesn't just stop in April 24th or 2026. It's everything moving forward as well. These are guidelines that are in place from now until whenever. It will continue and always need to make new content accessible day forward. There's a little piece of internal communication as well that would need to be done. To Will's point, you don't have your financials done within your house. You probably don't need to at this moment, but the moment that somebody does request them to be made accessible internally, you will need to go ahead and convert those over there. So there is one of the reasons why we call it accessibility on demand is there is true demand needed on those one-off situations where, hey, I need to have this done before the end of the day, so another employee within my institution can access this content.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for a little elaboration there. So deadline's approaching, why we're doing this or why you should be looking into it, and then some challenges related to current accessibility. To make documents accessible, the steps now, they require a lot of manual steps. We have to basically prep the documents with OCR. You have to create the tag structure, set the reading order, the alternate text, write the alternate text that someone would hear if they're listening to the computer reader read them back what's on that page. Tables and forms are difficult. And then you're validating and retesting. A lot of manual steps, a lot of person hours going into making documents accessible. So hundreds of person hours to make these accessible PDFs. And it's slow, expensive, and not scalable. So, yeah, Brock could provide a little more color around this, but he has worked with a few folks that, they have one or two people or three people working on documents that it'll take weeks or months to do just a handful of
Yep.
PDFs based on this description of what has to go in to make it accessible based on the WCAG guidelines. So that's one of the challenges you're dealing with is to do it now or manually is very difficult.
Yeah.
Also,
I
it's
was going to say one thing in there, Will, with
sure.
your, yeah, that's perfect. It normally takes about 30 minutes per page to be able to do these 6 steps. And that doesn't have to do anything with validating and retesting to make sure you did it right. And that's if you know what you're doing. It takes a very, very long time to do it. I think our math is it takes about 2.5 years. If you had about 1,000 documents you need done, it takes about 2.5 years to be able to do that completely if you have one person doing this 40 hours a week every single day.
Not very scalable. So that's one of the reasons a lot of organizations have just kind of not done this in the past is because one, it's extremely difficult or was extremely difficult, and two, it was, as we'll talk about here, expensive. So there are, over the past number of years, this isn't a new, accessibility is not a new thing. It's been around. It's just been very manual or very expensive, and that's why it's been kind of put in the back burner. But with these new rules, a lot of people are looking into it, and tools like accessibility on demand are becoming available to solve the challenges because it was not on the front burner for really anybody. It was kind of, yeah, it's in the background. We need to do it at some point, but very expensive. So, different levels of accessibility. This is current cost for most options. This is what Brock was describing. Like even other, companies have been doing this for years. A lot of it is still manual. Just the technology was not really there to make it as simple as you'll see when I get to AOD and we show a quick demo of it. So very expensive, very laborious. So with that in mind, I'm going to close out of here and jump into the demo by popping up accessibility on demand here. So this is the tool. And as Brock said, it's in the name. It's meant to be an on-demand tool that your folks, I'm going to quickly refresh to make sure I didn't get kicked out from just being logged in for a bit. It's meant to be something your team can use when you need it. So let's say you have 10,000 PDFs, you're thinking, oh, this could be expensive. And I don't know if I have the budget now, this fiscal year, whatever it is, to do all 10,000. Well, that's why this tool is around. You can choose which ones you want to do and not have to do all 10,000 PDFs. Maybe you focus on 500 this week, a couple hundred more in a few months based on what you need, but it's always available. So if something comes up that, oh, I need to get this done today, okay, you put it in the tool, make it accessible, you're done. Trying to you're not trying to boil the ocean, basically. You're picking and choosing what you need when you need it. So this is gonna be a pretty straightforward, fairly quick demo. Again, I'm just trying to get across the simplicity of it. compared to that very elongated process Brock described that could be taking place. So I have done a couple documents already, and we'll use that in a second, but I'm going to pop up one right here. And there's a, let me move some screens around. We'll talk about it in a little bit, but it is a credit-based system. But this is what you'd see if, and this is my demo site for myself. This is what you'd see if you're logged in. You can create your own users, create groups, and admins and whatnot. So multiple people could be accessing this, but it's all batch-based. So if I wanted to create a new batch, it might be 5 documents or PDFs, it might be 10, 20, or just one. So I'm gonna create a batch, and I'm just gonna use this just Department of Transportation document. It's a 3-page PDF, and I'll just name it dot webinar test. And then you could put a description like, lorem ipsum, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can name the batches and what files are in there. It says, all right, you've loaded this file. It's that big, 3 pages. Great. So I'm just doing that one document. So I'm going to create the batch. Once the batch is created, it pops up here. There's the batch name. I click into it and I see the file. There's only one file, so that's all we see. There are multiple files I loaded. You can see multiple files. So what I'm going to do is select that file, and I'm going to make accessible. And again, we'll talk about the credits in a little bit and how that works, but it does say here what's going to happen based on the level you choose. I'm going to choose, just to make it easy and not use a bunch of my credits, level 1. So it's like, all right, you're going to do level 1, AOD level 1, which is standard. It's 1 credit per page. So you're going to use, excuse me, you're going to use 3 credits. You're multiple times. You're going to use 3 credits. Great. Make accessible. Now, once this window closes, we're going to let that run. And feel free, if you have your phone on you or something, just time it. We'll come back to when it's done. And actually, it should be pretty quick. So maybe I don't want to jump out of here too fast. But while we're sitting there waiting for that, which should be about a minute or so, you'll see these other options down here, other examples. Again, I've already loaded. So I did an
Well,
infographic. Go ahead.
do you mind zooming in just a little bit
Oh,
over
sure.
there so we can see those numbers?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep the whole screen. Sorry about that, folks. I will zoom in. Hopefully, how's that?
Yeah, that's better for me.
Better? Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you for letting me know. All right, so this is running, like I said, infographic. This was just a BMI infographic that we do for our marketing purposes and whatnot. So it's just a 1-page document that's a good example of, we're talking about level 1, level 2, and you saw level 3. So that's within accessibility on demand. All these fall under WCAG 2.1 AA, but within accessibility on demand, you do have different levels that you can run, and there are different price points. So this is the infographic, just a 1-pager. And this one was done at, I'm actually going to show the one that I did at level 1 first, because that's the best way to kind of see the difference. So do a quick review. And here's the page, a bunch of metadata. I'm not going to go into that on this image, but the key point is excuse me, right here. There it is. So this image here, it's saying, hey, here's a figure. The H1 is up here. This is a figure, and it describes what it is. And I could click that button, it would start speaking, saying, this is what someone that's sight impaired would hear if it read it off. So this was just through the tool said, this is what it is. Okay, great. Some reels, some microfilm reels, a clock inside a gear, and some boxes. That makes sense. That is the graphic. So it's absolutely accurate. Level 1. Okay, that's done. We'll come back to that. What was that? A minute and 20 seconds, minute 30 seconds, something of that sort. We'll come back to that. You go to level 2, and let's review that. Same image, same infographic, but you look at the figure, captured the same information, but the detail is much more descriptive. So one of the big differences between level 1 and 2, level 1 within AOD, you're getting about a 95+% compliance rating, tag to WCAG 2A. Level 2 is a 98+%, but it's also more descriptive and typically better for graphics, images, charts, things of that sort. So this is a very simple example that even the same image run through the same tool at different levels, much more descriptive. So Do you need that? That's up to you, but that's just a very quick example.
We
All right.
found a lot of our partners with Natural Labs here that have really taken advantage of what level two does. And like to Will's point, very descriptive alternative text. And I think that the example with Department of Transportation is a great one. You have engineering drawings, street views, aerial views, pictures, whatever else it may be. Having those true descriptions of those graphs, charts, heavy complex tables, you can actually get a lot more out of it for the non-sighted user. Because the whole goal of this accessibility is to truly portray it just as you were to see it as a sighted user. And these thorough descriptions, especially on complicated graphs and charts and tables, really need that to be able to portray it accurately for those users.
Yeah, exactly. Now, coincidentally, my DOT document is actually mostly text, so it was an easy one. But what Brock's saying is exactly true. Like images, graphs, it just gets better with the level two, much more descriptive. But what I'm going to do here is it ran, it said, I'm done. But we want to see the compliance score. It's not showing right now. And actually, I'm going to go back down here real quick. Level one and level two actually both got the same compliance scores. It was the exact same image. It just happened to be, hey, you got the exact same score. So sometimes level one is just fine. Like you're getting a great score based on WCAG 2.1, but I wouldn't have had to run it at level two. But it's interesting seeing that in that case, that one page document infographic got the same score. Just a little interesting note. So going back to this one though, I'm at my DOT document and I run it and we could go review it. But first, I'm going to click this little button here and I'm going to generate my accessibility score. So there's a little decoupling there because what we're doing, we're making the document accessible, but to speed that up, the compliance score is decoupled. So then if you want to see that score right away, you can click it. You don't have to. If you don't feel the need to look at it, you don't have to. But in this case, we want to see it. So it's going to run and it takes maybe 30 seconds to then create that compliance score. And then we'll see the report. Oh, there it is. So again, we ran at level one. There's the score. And again, this is WCAG 2.1. This is based on the PDF UA guidelines. So from here we go, great, level one, fantastic score. Well, what does that mean? Brock, I'll let you do it. I'm sure
Sure.
he'll do a better example, but the guidelines for WCAG are based on poor, perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. So you just quickly describe kind of what this checker is doing.
Sure. Yeah, and I think that Sean actually threw a question in the chat as well here that kind of ties exactly into this point. So I'll answer Sean's really quick. Is accessibility a legal requirement only for public-facing documents? Always what we're going to say is consult with your attorney, your lawyers, and make sure that you know exactly what does and does not need to be done. Under ADA Title II, it is anything that's public out there for, maybe it's that municipality, maybe it's that public education space, K-12, higher ed, whatever it may be. It also has to do with what it needs to be done for the internal employees. So, employee handbooks, onboarding packets, guidelines, policies, procedures. They're called places of public access. So, let's say you have this employee handbook and it's only staying internal, but everybody in the facility has access to it. That should be done under the American Disabilities Act. However, it may be under ADA Title I, which is more for employee discrimination versus public entities coming. So we always are going to put an emphasis on public content needs to get done point blank, no matter what. There are other things that do need to get done internally to make sure that you are still compliant under both ADA Title I and Title II. But your most at-risk documents is what we call them are going to be those public-facing ones because that's where private industry lawyers or ambulance chaser type lawyers can come and sue for non-compliance. So a little bit of a long-winded answer, but we do recommend always consulting with an attorney so you guys know exactly what does and doesn't need to be done. The uh, Under these compliance score results, kind of what Will was alluding to here is compliance score is special to AOD. It is a percentage that we're giving you as a user to truly understand what is accessible, what is compliant. And if you're familiar with WCAG, like as Will mentioned, we have the POUR method. But WCAG was actually meant for websites. So the web content accessibility guidelines, I mean, we're basing everything on a website. And what the Department of Justice actually comes out and says is it's not meant for, they call them electronic conventional documents. So when Will showcases a 97%, a 98%, most of the time the questions that people ask is why not 100? Well, not everything is applicable under WCAG or PDF UA actually for true accessibility, because under the Department of Justice's ruling, it is if it's accessible, it is compliant. And some of these checks may actually not matter when it comes to an electronic conventional document. So we see it has 45 failures. What we need to validate is that has absolutely zero impact on the true accessibility by nature for that individual. And with the poor method and this screen that Will's showing, we really can dive in deep exactly what passed, what was warned, and what failures happened exactly against those measures that the Department of Justice is asking us to uphold.
All right, perfect. Thank you. And then also
Mhm.
you click the PDF UA, but from here,
Yep.
then you can also actually download the report. Another great aspect of AOD, because if someone ever asks, well, show me that you ran, show me that it's accessible, you actually have a report you could theoretically give them. So
Yep.
it talks about here's the passing, here's failures, but overall the score is A, B, and C. Certification that it went through this, you could download the PDF. So you get the report along with the actual document. So now we're here. We'll go into review it. It's a little zoomed in for me, so I apologize if I'm a little misclicky here. But so you get the three-page document, page one, two, three, there's your tag tree, basically all the metadata. We're not going to go through all of it, but the general idea is it's calling out all the different aspects that would be uh, you know, not legible, but everything that would be accessible, be able to use the audio tool so someone could sit there and listen to these different, the speaker describe what's on that page basically. So you have all these different sections saying, here's a paragraph, then there's a text from the first line, second line, third line. You can see that what's on screen, that's what would be read off here too.
I think that Will may be jumping right into it. I may be jumping the gun on it,
No,
but
go for it.
this it doesn't matter if the document had a true tag structure beforehand or if it had zero tags at all. This is what AOD did to this document while it was remediating. And so it could have had nothing. It could have had no paragraphs. What it did was remediated and added all of these tags for you without ever doing anything to the document. And so adding those P tags for paragraph, figure for images, and AOD follows as best practice as it possibly can, which is multi-line paragraphs if it is multi-line, or as Will's showing now, a table with TR, table row, TH, table header, TD, table data. And so we're always going to continue to improve this as far as we get down to be able to make it as accessible as possible for those users. Because on that left tag tree is what is going to get read aloud to that user. And if you need to change it, you can just drag and drop it into the place that you'd like it changed. So it's very simple to update a document. If you had any, we would call them subjective type of changes of I would rather this be read first or this be read second. And some documents do require a little bit more than that. But for the most part, we're going to tag everything exactly as it should be tagged. And we have this review module in case you want to actually check to see what it did.
Perfect. So again, it's creating that metadata structure, that table tagging, and if you're over here and you're wondering, well, what missed? This is where that report is created from. It's saying this document has these reports and failures or flags, and as Brock said, some of these may not be anything. It's just that's just part of the document. There's nothing to actually remediate. It's just that is what the document is. So it's someone may verify, say, oh, that's not actually applicable, but all these are here. We can see, okay, where do these actually apply? So you have not only the report, but you can go into the document and see what was there as well. Okay, and what else? I think that covers Brock. Let me know if I missed something, but that really covers the gist of showing the tool of how it works. Very simple, straightforward. You can see there's not much to it, which is good. You want it simple. It's here's my document, here's the level I want, I have my credits, I get what I need back. Anything else you think I should show, or is that good before moving
Yeah.
on to the next step?
What we tell people is pretty much, hey, this is, if you saw this, you are comfortable doing it. We try to make it as absolutely user friendly where you do not need to be an expert remediator to do this. And it's designed in that purpose. So that IT director, that communications director, that communications coordinator, that public information officer that does not have a history of remediation, but has been tasked with getting compliant, they can come in here and do this in batches in very quick time. It's unlimited number of users included. You do not pay for users within AOD. So it's very simple to assign people to certain projects where you can truly scale to get compliant ahead of that April deadline or April of 2027 if you are next year. So yeah, I think we got another question in here.
Hmm.
Tool automatically apply color contrast accessibility requirements. So one of the things, Sean, as well, thank you for the question, is we don't change the underlying document itself. Legally, we don't want to. When we work in state, federal, local, municipal, higher ed, education, private industry companies. And some of these documents that we're doing are public facing, but they're truly historical records, but they want them to be public facing and accessible. And one thing that we can't do with those is truly change the contrast or the structure of the real document on the back end of it. Is it possible to do? Yeah, it is possible to be able to do that. But we get into a little bit of a legal tiptoeing with updating a historical record that really is not supposed to be touched. So we've had it addressed. It's something that is possible to be able to do, but it is a little bit of a gray area there for some historical records to say, hey, you guys can't actually change that document at all. All you can do is change the back end to make it accessible.
That's why we're wearing gray today, because everything's a gray
That's
area.
right. Yeah, that's right.
All right, perfect. So let me get back to this over here. So that's the demo. Very simple. That's the point of the tool. That's why it's great. That's why folks like it because it is simple. It's not overly complex. Now, it's a table. This is available on the website of what you get, but there's level one, two, and three. Of course, you have the different uh, compliance levels, and they all are compliant under WCAG 2.1 AA, but there's just different levels like we showed. Hey, I think, I ran a level one on an infographic. It got the same scores as level two. They were both, 98% roughly. So just depends what you need. And as Brock said, it's for you to determine internally which level you think is best. Level three, just very, and it describes here, does it describe here? No, but level one is best for, text heavy documents. Level two, you start having imagery, graphs, things like that. Just there's more computing power applied to it. That's why it's more expensive. Level three is the most expensive, and that's expert review because someone will actually go in and check those failures and flags, exceptions, and whatnot. And someone maybe, hey, this is just a document. There's nothing that can be done. Or it may say, oh, this does need to be tweaked here and changed. But that's not typically used. And that if you did need it, it'd likely be for something like you have like fillable forms. Because if you have fillable forms that you need publicly available, if you did level two, it would just make it static. Level three, you could keep the forms uh, live basically. So you may need level three, but most folks are going with level two, and then some with level one.
Yeah, I completely agree. Level three is fantastic for policy driven documents that absolutely require human verification from the team. It's still incredibly cheaper than doing it outsourced or even doing it in house. It's by far even cheaper. But with those fillable PDF forms, those interactive form fields is probably the best way to describe them, where you're going in and I always give the example of Department of Revenue when you're going and getting a car title, you need to fill out an application online typically to be able to do that. Keeping all of those forms interactive is very, very challenging. So if you've actually gone and remediated a form yourself, you know how long it takes to be able to do. And one thing that we just want to do is always make sure that they work, make sure they're still interactive, that the call outs are done correctly so you can be confident in the results you're getting. If you did, like to Will's point, if you upload an interactive form into level two, it's just going to strip away all of those interactive fields. And then it's going to still identify it as a form. However, it will not do the interactive piece as of today.
All right, so that's what you get. Now, of course, everyone's wondering how much does it cost. So as we mentioned earlier, it's a credit-based system. So you're not necessarily putting pages in there and paying right. I have a 10-page document. It's going to be $3 for this. As you buy credits to then use your pages again. So someone that you have some files you're not sure which ones you want to start with, that's a great use for this tool because that's why it's accessibility on demand because you only need it when you need it. So maybe you say, I'm going to buy 10,000 credits. It's $3,000 and I'll use them as I need them. And if I start needing more, I'll buy another batch of credits and then use them when I need them rather than saying I'm going to spend $100,000 today not knowing if I'm going to need all of it or not. So that's a great way that this tool is being used is it's when you need it, buying smaller bits and then deciding, do I need more? Do I need to buy a lot more next time? Or, oh, this is a perfect rate, so on and so forth. So quick example, let's say you have 5,000 PDF pages. Again, these are not, it's not 30 cents for, per credit. Let's say it's level one credit per page. It's per page, not document. So it's always by the page slash image. So you have a PDF or multiple PDFs and it's 5,000 pages total, but you want enhanced. That's 6 credits per page. So level one is 1 credit per page. Level two is 6 credits. Level three is 40 credits. So 6 credits per page times 5,000 pages, you'd be spending 30,000 credits to make that document level two enhanced. So why AOD? Just a quick recap here. It's simple. You saw it. It's something that I picked up very quickly. I'm not the heaviest tech person, but I got in there and of course would go through it, got some training on it, but it's very intuitive. It's like, okay, the buttons are simple because there are not a lot of tools and features or bells and whistles. It's very focused and direct. So it's very simple. It works fast. You saw that level one document in about a minute get converted to WCAG compliant. Level two would have been probably at the same time, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, depends on just the computing, but it works very fast. It is available now. You sign up, you get an account, you start using it. I mean, it's like that. It's like signing up for just a software application. You're in, it's working. Very, very fast, very available. And you're in control. That's the biggest thing. It's not, okay, I have about 10,000 PDFs. I need to get these done. Timeline's coming up. Deadlines are coming up. I'm not really sure which ones I need to do, but I guess I'll just send them all and spend the money and get it done. That's the old way. The new way is I have these documents. I need to get them done, but I don't have time to go through all of them. But I know I need to do these ones right now. I can look at these in a week, but I need these right now. Bang, bang, bang. You put it through. You have your compliance. They're accessible, and then you keep working as they come along. You're in control of that whole process. So it's in the name. That's why it's accessibility on demand because it is on demand. Very straightforward, very simple.
I was going to say, Sean has another great question here. Which level of accessibility meets the legal requirements? Trying to understand level options. So they all, well, let's back that up. Legal requirements are under ADA Title II. It's to, they call them as to the extent the success criteria can be applied is the real legal verbiage under WCAG. And so to my point earlier, when I said not everything is going to apply to a PDF document or electronic conventional document, they are applying as many success criteria as we possibly can to make this document accessible against those third-party standards. And so when we look at that and we take a step back and say, okay, what are those success criteria? Well, when we're building this document within AOD, all of those checks that are done, and it says pass, warning, fail, those are criteria that we're using to apply against that document to see exactly this is what the WCAG says we need to do. Let's base it on exactly what it says. And those compliance score reports that are downloadable within AOD, that is included. These are really what the government is asking us to do. And we base everything exactly off of those guidelines. So with websites, and this is just a little backstory on WCAG, with websites, you really can, and it truly is a black and white. Your either website is compliant or your website is not compliant. Whereas PDFs are a little bit different because they don't involve a thing called a user agent, and we can, talk about that more. It's a little bit of an in-depth conversation, but they don't involve everything. And so when we say legal requirements at what level, Level one could absolutely satisfy those requirements for compliance and accessibility at level one at 30 cents per page. When you get into level two for a more complicated document that are those documents with Will's infographic, heavy pictures, charts, tables, complicated. I would say most documents are truly level two, unless they're policies, procedures, board minutes, agendas, whatever that may be. Those could equally be as compliant as accessible because accessibility is compliance, and that's what satisfies the legal requirement is having a legal an accessible document would be legal. Level three is, hey, I have a policy that absolutely makes it so somebody's got to do this, and it's going to be you. Okay, AOD, we need you to review all of these documents to do it for us, or those fillable PDF forms. So a little, again, long-winded answer, but it does kind of answer the question. Oh, you're welcome. The last question is accessibility on demand continue to update? Yes, absolutely. So it's written in there right now for WCAG 2.1 level AA within the DOJ law. WCAG WCAG 2.2, it actually doesn't have anything to do with PDF documents. It has to do with something else. So if you wanted to say everything being remediated within AOD is 2.2, that would still be true because none of the changes from 2.1 made a difference in electronic conventional documents. But yes, we will continue to make this better, and we know things will be changing, and we're always going to work to push the boundaries on making it as accurate and as accessible as possible.
Excellent. Thank you, Brock, for answering those questions that came up because you were monitoring them better than I was. All right. So that I don't think there are any more. Okay. Before we close out, we'll do one last check, but that seems to be it. So if you want to get in touch with me, there's my email. If you have your phone on you, hover over. If you want to sign up for our newsletter, it goes out every other week. We'll keep you up to date with upcoming webinars, new blog articles, new videos, so anything digital imaging, including accessibility now, because that's where we're moving into. Sign up for the newsletter. If you're curious about an accessibility project, you can hover over that estimator and just scroll down to where it says PDF accessibility, type in some inputs and see what a price could be. And if you have other digital conversion projects, because that's also what we do, film, microfiche, paper, things of that sort, hosting, that estimator includes those as well. So just choose your poison. But that's it. Thank you very much. Thank you, Brock. Appreciate you being here and everyone that joined. And this recording, I'll send it out tomorrow to the folks that registered. So you'll see an email from me coming out very soon. So Brock, have a great day. Everyone also
Yeah.
have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.